Is Lance Armstrong wearing 181. He's got the fastest time at half distance.
Well, he really is flying, Paul, and he looks so good here, making his big return to the Tour de France. He hasn't been here for a couple of years because of his illness, but he's back now. This is the man sweeping up at the back of the field. He's up towards the climb of the Côte du Fossé now. And this is the world champion, Abraham Olano, sandwiched between them, and also looking very good at the checks.
All the big names out on the course now. Chris Boorman as well, the winner 3 occasions of the prologue time trial at the Tour de France. He too is out on the course now. This is the right-hand bend. You have to take this at full bore, 50 kilometres an hour, and try and keep the momentum on the first part of this climb.
A massive crowd here. This is the place to watch the prologue. There's no doubt about that, as they see the riders in full flight. Back to the finishing line now. The best time in is Christophe Moreau, and I don't think that Pavel Tonkov is going to approach that. He's still a fair way to go down this straight. There's the best time, and Tonkov is not going to be happy with this, Paul, because he's trained specifically for this race.
His goal is a lot longer down the road. In fact, he's looking at the end of the 3 weeks to try and climb high up in the overall rankings. Not a great prologue by him. 8 minutes, 30 seconds, losing about 23 seconds. But Alex Zula's got a great time. He's coming up to the line now.
Now, Zula's been out for 8 months, suspension for taking EPO. He's back. He had a bad tour of Italy, but it looks like he's come out fighting here today. Zula's on a great time. All of the best time checks. 8:09 at the line, the new leader.
Well, at half distance, in fact, Phil, Lance Armstrong was 1 second ahead of him. This is Bobby Julich now on the Côte du Fossé. You can see how difficult this climb is. Julich is out of the saddle. It is a tough climb, and especially on a low-profile machine, and it doesn't look as if Julich is too comfortable out on the road.
Oh, Chris Boorman now finishing behind Zula. Zula was a good marker for him, but Chris hasn't got the better of him this time. It's a long way down this straight here at the Puy de Fou. So Boorman, the winner of the prologue last year, he's done it 3 times in all. He's not going to do it this time. He's dropped away from it 8:17, 8:18.46. That's a bad time for Chris.
He won't be happy with that. He's based his season on winning the prologue. The man wearing number 51, Olano, out on the course. But Armstrong is here, and Armstrong is well inside the time of Alex Zula.
Well, he's been scorching it all the time checks. What a comeback this could be. There's only 2 men behind him now. Armstrong is the leader, and we'll have to wait. 8:2.5. That is astonishing.
Unbelievable, Phil. 50.7 kilometres an hour. That's nearly 32 miles an hour. Abraham Olano, the time trial champion of the world, is outside the time of Lance Armstrong, so I don't think anybody is going to beat him.
Well, there's only, in fact, 1 rider left now, and Julich has been behind at all of the time checks. Olano hasn't done it either. And here is the last man on the course, round the bottom turn. Now it's a headwind finish, and it's not going to be a winning time. Lance Armstrong has made a magical return to the Tour de France. There's the time of Julich, already outside of that of Lance Armstrong. Remember that Julich lost this time trial a year ago in Dublin by just 5 seconds on Chris Boorman. It's going to be a lot more than that now, as Julich suffers towards the line. The clock is counting away from Armstrong. Armstrong will be the first maillot jaune of the Tour de France, as Bobby Julich comes over in 8:30.75, 28 seconds slower than Lance Armstrong.
Well, that's an incredible start to the Tour de France, Phil. He's back at the camping car. Everybody's there to congratulate him. Frankie Andreu, his 8th Tour de France, the captain of the team, and Johan Brunel, the team manager. I don't think he could have believed that before the start of this tour.
Well, what a start for Brunel. Indurain did 8 minutes 12 seconds over this course in 1993, and now Lance has gone 10 seconds quicker. Zuller, by the way, finished second to Indurain, 8 seconds slower. Now he's finished second to Armstrong, 7 seconds slower. So at least he stays consistent. But this is the new wearer of the maillot jaune, the first wearer indeed of this year's Tour de France. Lance Armstrong gets the yellow jersey ahead of Zuller, Olano and Morrow. Let's now go to Gary Imlach, who is interviewing Lance Armstrong at the finish.
Congratulations, what a way to announce your return to the Tour.
I mean, right now I'm so surprised, but yet I'm so pleased and so happy for the team and for the staff and the other riders. It's of course it's a big story, but for the moment we're so pleased. It's unbelievable.
You say surprised, 7 seconds over the second place man over less than 7 kilometers. That is pretty surprising going.
Yeah, that's all I know. I don't know the time, so I didn't look at my time the whole course, and then I knew before I started the best time was 8:20, and I came across the line and I saw right around 8 minutes, and I thought, yeah, maybe it can't be right. But of course I gave everything, and I feel good.
Well, you certainly proved that, Lance, and the leader of the Tour de France now by 7 seconds, Le Puy de Fou, the capital of the folklore of the Vendée, has certainly been kind to Lance Armstrong today. The next stage for them, 208 kilometres now from Montaigu to Chalons. The Tour de France has wasted no time in finding itself a new hero, and from Montaigu this morning, it's the American Lance Armstrong on their Independence Day who will lead this race away. Well, what a big difference a year has made. Last year we regularly brought reports of police raids on the event and riders being involved in drug scandals. Now that problem is still with us, evidenced by the fact that some big names are not here, but the news media is here as well as the sports media. Well, of course, we hope the next 3 weeks will see an end to all of that, but it's been a lot happening this past year. And first of all, before we go to the action, let's go to Gary Imlach to bring us right up to date.
It started with an arrest. Festina team masseur Willy Vert caught at the French-Belgian border with a carload of the performance-enhancing drug EPO. 9 days later, the world's top team, led by France's favourite rider Richard Virenque, were thrown out of the race. Another 6 left in protest, including the Dutch TVM squad after their hotel was raided by police, and for a few dramatic hours on stage 17, when the riders brought the entire race to a halt, it looked as though it might never restart. By the time Italy's Marco Pantani claimed victory in Paris, along with fewer than half the riders who'd started, it was clear that the end of the Tour wouldn't be the end of the matter. And so it's proved, with a number of criminal inquiries still in progress and several big names involved. Casino rider Rodolfo Massi is accused of trafficking. Holthay's team doctor Nicolas Terrados of doping. From Festina, Willy Vert, manager Bruno Roussel, Dr. Eric Rijkaard and Richard Virenque are all under investigation. Most of Virenque's teammates eventually admitted drug use, served bans and are now riding again. But Virenque denies everything, despite increasingly detailed allegations from Willy Vert, who's published a book complete with pages from the drug dosing diary he kept at Festina. Among other visitors to the investigation headquarters in Lille have been some of the most powerful men in cycling. Jean-Marie Leblanc, director of the Tour, and Hein Verbruggen, head of cycling's international ruling body, the UCI, have both been asked how much they knew of any abuse and whether they could have done more to fight it. Certainly they're trying now. In January, the UCI announced quarterly medical tests for all riders, albeit administered by their teams, along with surprise tests of their own, both in and out of competition, and increased penalties for any transgressors. The French Federation launched a long-term programme to keep tabs on every aspect of a rider's health, and team sponsors drew up their own anti-doping charter. The Tour added a moral condition to qualification.
Les organisateurs se réserveront le droit de récuser jusqu'au départ de l'épreuve tout coureur et toute équipe qui porterait atteinte à l'image et à la réputation du Tour de France pour fait de dopage notamment.
Still, not everyone seemed to get the message.
Quelle puissance! Quelle force! Extraordinaire!
In May, the world #1 Frank van den Broek was arrested over his association with a Paris horse doctor accused of doping. Also on the doctor's list of patients, Richard Virenque, who was fined by his new team Polti, but allowed to ride the Giro d'Italia. Which brings us to the real shocker. Marco Pantani, defending champion of both the Giro and the Tour, thrown off the race for an abnormally high red blood cell count.
In questo momento vorrei solamente un po' di rispetto e un saluto ai tifosi. Mi dispiace solo per il ciclismo.
Pantani and Van den Broek saved the Tour organisers the agony by ruling themselves out of this year's race. But that still left some tough decisions.
L'équipe TVM Farfrit est, dans son ensemble, récusée. Le coureur Richard Virenque n'est pas le bienvenu cette année dans le Tour de France.
As well as Virenque and TVM, the final exclusion list had on it Philippe Gaumont and Laurent Roux, who've both been banned for drugs, Onthe's team Dr. Nicolas Terrados, and manager Manolo Saiz, who'd lambasted the Tour organisation as he led his team out of the race last year. And that should have been that, except that Polti and Onthe both appealed to the UCI, citing a dusty old rule about how much notice they should have been given of their exclusion. The UCI listened with the rapt attention of an organisation scared to death of being sued and promptly applied the letter of the law at the expense of the spirit. Reluctantly, the Tour had to admit both Saiz and Virenque, whose arrival at this year's race looked depressingly similar to his departure from last year's. On the face of it then, a bit of a mess, but at least it's a public mess, and if all the debate and scrutiny contributes towards cleaning up the sport, then it'll also have been a useful mess. Certainly yesterday's blood checks on all 180 riders were a useful step forward, and you can bank on there being plenty more of those as the race continues. And talking of the race, let's get on with today's.
Well, Gary, it's been a typical day in the first stage of the Tour de France here. A long breakaway by Thierry Gouvenou, 124th after the prologue, and he's been out front by over 6 minutes. He's been caught now, inside 3 kilometres to go, and the sprinters are going to have their say.
And the sprinters at the moment are being led at the front by the men in the red jersey. That's the Seiko Cannondale team of Mario Cipollini. Second place, in fact, is the Italian champion, Salvatore Commessa. But these guys really know how to put Mario Cipollini into orbit, and they want him to get the first stage here, Phil.
But what we are seeing today, Paul, is no real organisation by all of the teams here. And it's not the old red guard of Cipollini. We've got 3 of them here. Normally we have 5 or 6 of them. And it seems to be more or less a free-for-all here as the sprinters try to get through.
A lot of chaos there. You can see riders moving up around the outside. A lot of work at the front has been done by the Française de Jure. The new French sprinter Jimmy Casper will also be looking to get himself in the final 200 metres.
Well, the French are pinning a lot of hopes on this young man. He's very rapid. This is his first Tour de France. Because of his good sprinting and winning, he's been put in the team here. He's not expected to go the distance, but he's expected to win a stage in this opening week. Now the riders swarming up for the line. A Casino rider on the front at the moment. And now as they start to run through here now, on the far right there, the white jersey of Henk Vogels trying to pick up Stuart O'Grady. O'Grady wants the green jersey this year, and he said so. Eric Zabel's going to give him trouble, though. Zabel tucked in off to the left of our picture.
Right in the middle, though, it's Cantina Tollo. They're trying to sort the sprint out for their man, Nicola Minali. In the middle there is Christophe Capella, the rider from Big Matt, and Jay Sweet riding his first Tour de France, the Big Matt Aubert Australian rider.
So round that right-hander, a lot of riders lost position there now as the Team Domestiques lost their leaders, and one that's gone out of the wrong way is Henk Vogels looking for now Stuart O'Grady. He's not there. That looks like De Cruz of the Big Mat team opened up, but he hasn't got Capel on his wheel, and the white jersey of Vogels hasn't got O'Grady on his wheel. So this is all going wrong for the lead-out men at the moment. Capel is in 3rd place, and just behind him is Kursipuu in the Estonian Championship jersey, which he's won for a 2nd year, by the way. Now as Magnus Backstek leads out, as he tries to find his teammate O'Grady there, wasn't around. Now coming on the far right, Jan Kursipuu is having a go. A big challenge coming too from Tom Steels on the left. It's Kursipuu Steels for the line and trying to get on terms. Cipollini is out of this one as Kursipuu takes it on the line. They said he wasn't a man for the big occasion. Well, he is now, but he hasn't done enough to win the leader's yellow jersey, but he's done enough to win the stage.
Magnificent performance by Jan Kursipuu. He really came through out of nowhere. You can see on the left-hand side a big challenge from Tom Steels. On the right-hand side there is Eric Zabel. He's looking at the points jersey, and he doesn't seem to have the zip that he had a couple of years ago.
So victory then to Jan Kursipuu, and what a great one as he stands on the podium, his first ever stage win in the Tour.
Jan, this area has always been very successful for you, but did you think you had a chance to win the Tour de France today?
I thought about it, yes, all the day already, and especially when I saw the results of yesterday's prologue. I saw that I was the best sprinter. I did the best time among the sprinters, so I thought it's maybe a sign for today.
Yes, and a very good finish indeed, but not quite good enough for the yellow jersey. He's still down the way a little bit. Lance Armstrong keeping his advantage of 7 seconds over Alex Zülle and 11 over Abraham Olano.
It's great to win the yellow jersey, but actually to ride throughout the stage of the Tour de France wearing yellow must have been a special day for you.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like I said a minute ago, I was so nervous this morning. I thought I was, I thought I didn't have my bike shoes or my helmet or something, but in the race, I felt more comfortable.
So 2 days in yellow for Lance Armstrong, leading Alex Zülle by 7 seconds, and Abraham Olano 11 seconds in third place. Christophe Moreau, after his great time trial, is fourth, and Boardman, same for him, he lies in fifth place. Jan Kirsipuu is the sprinter, he's 16 seconds off the pace. And it's good to see Stuart O'Grady's name on the list as well. Now they're facing up to stage 2 from Chalons to Saint-Nazaire, and this will be another flat ride across the bridge. This morning, although conditions are still overcast, no sign of rain yet, as the riders now say goodbye to the Vendée and they head up to Saint-Nazaire. Basically, this is a flat course, but it does have some unusual features. And this morning, Gary Inlac was out early to have a look at one of them.
Phil, this is the 84-kilometre mark of today's stage. At least we think it is, because to be honest, the road markings are a bit hard to make out. And that's because the road is a bit hard to make out, submerged as it is several feet beneath the Atlantic. This is the Passage du Gois, which connects the Ile de Noirmoutier and the French mainland. First crossed in 1766 on horseback, as commemorated by a plaque on the wall of the local CAF, and ever since by a variety of other means. Only at low tide, though, because this is the Wimbledon of local access roads. The covers only come off for about 4 hours a day, which makes time in the supermarket run a crucial issue for the islanders. There are a series of safety platforms along the 4.5-kilometre route, just in case the tide turns against you, but you'd be hard-pressed to get the weekly shop up there with you, let alone a family saloon. Plenty of people have made it across, though, including the German army in 1940, and the Tour itself the last time the race started in this part of France 6 years ago. On today's route, the riders will head out to the island via the modern bridge, and conditions permitting, back along the cobbled causeway to the mainland. If the Tour organisers have read their tide tables properly, we should have some pretty spectacular shots along here later on. If not, it'll be a quick ring round for Charlton Heston's agent's number. Back to Phil.
Thanks, Gay. Let's hope the tide's out by the time we get there. The rollout, 110 miles today from Chalons. These are the principal players at the moment. Mariano Piccoli in polka dot, King of the Mountains. Lance Armstrong starting his second full day in yellow. And on the right here, Jan Kirsipuu.
A dream start for the Tour de France for Lance, but I have to tell you one thing, Phil, he's going to get really challenged today by Jan Kirsipuu, who's only 6 seconds off. But at the Passage au Gois, Armstrong is going into that area there. In second position, he's riding very well.
Well, they've raced flat out here to be sure they got onto this narrow road and saw the front of it. And you know, Paul, I heard there's something like a crash there, and there it is. It happened at the back of the field. A number of riders are down here. This is a massive pile up here.
There's bodies all over the place. There's 1 or 2 riders down there and injured. I can see a rider from US Postal sitting in the middle of the road there. That looks a bit like Jonathan Vaughters. There's another man getting up there as well, riding off. But this has caused a big split in the main field. But Armstrong predicted this, and he's right near the front.
There's an awful lot of riders have been delayed here too, and that's Calcaterra from Seiko also. There's a wrestling match going on there. Let's have a look at the crash now. Watch the bottom of your picture here, because they start to fall on the left, and because the road is so slippery, I think there's a whole ricochet effect here.
What's happened is those first 2 riders have gone down, and the people behind have all panicked. They've touched the brakes and the wheels have locked up. Mario Cipollini wasn't involved because he's at the front in this small group. There is the green jersey of Jan Kirsipuu. Magnus Backstedt is there as well for Crédit Agricole, and there is the yellow jersey of Lance Armstrong with a good teammate, George Hincapie.
Well, this could be a gift sent from heaven here, Paul, because this is a small group of about 12 or 13 riders. Trapped in that back group are some of the big players. Alex Zülle was involved in that fall. So too is Michael Bogart. 2 principal players. Look how the field is split up here. Now, remember, we are 84 kilometres covered now of a 176-kilometre day. So they've got chance to recover.
There's still 110 kilometres to go to the finish now. Hincapie's moving to the front, putting the hammer down there. He'll be happy to see that his man, Lance Armstrong, in the yellow jersey's got across this area in safe conditions. But Race Radio Phil telling us 1 more serious member in that break, in that accident there. In fact, Ivan Gotti too has gone down, the winner of the recent Tour of Italy.
Well, as far as we know, most are up and riding. There has been a call for the ambulance, but most seem to be on the way now as the riders start to exit the Passage du Gois. Well, the last time it came across here was 1993, and now a little group has formed at the front. It's swelled somewhat, Paul, but still missing here as we head towards the Pont de Saint-Nazaire in the distance there. That itself, by the way, is a 4th category climb. We're now approaching 166 kilometres, and the gap is growing.
Unbelievable. There are 75 riders in this group, and although Alex Zuller's Banesto team really chased hard to try and limit their losses, they held it at 30 seconds for a long time, Phil, but the last official time check we had was in fact they're more than 4 minutes behind this leading group of riders.
Well, they've worked so hard in this breakaway. The chase, I think, has gone off at the back now because they're very dispirited. There's 3 good riders caught back there, Bogart, Gotti and Zuller. This has been a terrible day for them as they go over the Pont de Saint-Nazaire. Once over the top of this, it's only 10 kilometres down to the finish. And here's Gotti here now, number 61. They are losing huge time.
A lot of riders losing big time today. There's Manuel Beltran, but at the finish it's a big lead out coming for Eric Zabel, and this is Stefan Weissermann right on the front.
And this is a huge gap as well for this breakaway group. What a gift now as Lars Mikkelsen goes for it. And Jan Kersipuu is there now. Well, he's done so well today. He's won all of the sprint bonuses. He's racing for the yellow jersey now. Armstrong safely in the pack. He's gaining time over his rivals. Mikkelsen looks over, waiting for somebody else. Jimmy Casper goes on the far right now. Casper makes a dig. Martinello tries to grab his wheel. Zabel is there too in the pink top. But here comes Mario Cipollini on the far right now. And poor Jimmy Casper's gone far too soon off on the left now as Tom Steels comes and Kersipuu tries. Steels gets it. Steels on the line and right alongside him there was Mario Cipollini. But it was a close finish. Steels gets the win, but Kersipuu should get the yellow jersey.
He certainly should. He put in a great sprint all day, and this is how it was won. You can see Jimmy Casper in the white there. He panicked. That's the sign of youth. Coming out the outside there on the white jersey, that is Tom Steels. The big sprinters right alongside him, Mario Cipollini and Eric Zabel. When it comes to the kick, though, Phil, I have to say Tom Steels really has it.
Superb finish by Steels. He won 4 stages of the Tour last year, don't forget, and now he's opened his account very early on indeed, because the former Belgian national champion gets his win. But this man has got the yellow jersey now. He leads the Tour by just a few seconds, 14 to be precise, and this is the main field coming in. Look at the clock at the right, because Zuller and co have lost an awful lot, and Mark Wouters, he was injured in the crash and in fact stopped a few miles down the road, and so too sadly did Jonathan Waters of US Postal. And I think this is a rider on great form who's sadly going to be missed by Lance Armstrong. Let's have a look at the overall situation. There it is. Now we can go to Paul again.
Lance, once again, the Tour de France proved that you have to be attentive on every stage, because anything can happen.
Yeah, it's a tough race, and it's 3 weeks, and you know it's always the first week. Everybody hates the first week. It's dangerous, it's nervous, and you have guys that are only going to be here a week or 10 days, and they're normally classics guys, and they like the wind and they like the flat roads. And you mix them in with guys who want to win the Tour de France and have to wait 10 days for the mountains and the time trials. And when they come together, sometimes the mix is dangerous for the overall. And today was a good example.
Well, this is the next stage they face now, a little bit shorter, 194 kilometres, 178 riders left in. Just the 2 crash victims out of the Tour at the moment to swing into the last kilometre here. And the rider who's gone down there, Moreno Di Biasi, Paul. This is coming down to a bunch sprint again, but it was a dangerous right-hander, that.
Everyone taking risks. Everybody wants to stay at the front at this moment. The man right on the front, though, is the champion of Holland. There's Di Biasi down on the ground. He looks okay. They've taken his bike. In fact, the police may have taken his bike back down to the police station, but he should be up and riding very shortly. On the front is Martin Den Bakker, obviously leading the sprint out for Robbie McEwen, who's up there in the orange and white jersey in 3rd place.
Well, sadly for Di Biasi, he was outside the kilometre there, so he's losing time while he's on the floor, but I believe he's now up and riding. As we see the riders head down towards the line here, this again is being a very, very difficult lead-out sprint. On the front is still the Dutch champion Martin Den Bakker. They're hoping that Robbie McEwen can produce the goods here, because they've lost potentially their race leader because of that crash a couple of days ago in the Passage du Gois of Michael Bogert, and that really is sad.
A lot of riders in white jerseys up near the front there. That's the Française de Jeu. They want to try and get a win for Jimmy Casper, 21 years of age, the darling of France. He's the sprinter they want to take over. And coming up to the front now, as always, Phil, at the end of these stages, the pink and white jerseys of Team Telecom, that is the team of Eric Zabel. But they're talking to each other. They don't want to lead out just right now. They want to wait a little longer.
And in this field too, don't forget, is the new leader of the Tour now, Jan Kersipu. He pulled out the 6-second win bonus of Fede Breton right out at the start this morning after only 23 kilometres. So he's building himself a lead in this race. Now, can he finish it off with another stage win?
He'd be pretty happy if he could, because his lead now at the moment is 20 seconds over Lance Armstrong, and he has proved he's a very good sprinter. There's a lot of misunderstanding between these teams, Phil. The Seiko Cannondale riders are looking over their shoulders. They want to know where Mario Cipollini is. Look out for the green jersey, because wearing the green jersey today, in fact, is Tom Steels. He's not leading that competition, but in second place, he's right near the front as well.
Well, all of the teams have got their sprinters and domestics trying to break this up. There's no actual liaison between the rides at all this year. Not at the standard leads out we normally see. As they now start to open up for the line here, it looks as though Telecom might have themselves a little bit organised. This is a very good finish here in Laval. First time the race has come here for the finish now. As again, Casper in the middle as he tries to go. Van Bon is leading out, but he hasn't found Robbie McEwen on his wheel. And that is highlighting the disorganisation in these teams now as the Les Françaises du Jeu team try to get their man Jimmy Casper up there. He's fourth wheel at the moment. Lars Mikkelsen is giving him a good lead out. Casper's got his wheel. Mikkelsen giving everything here now. McEwen trying to come through it. It isn't going to work out because, again, watch out for the green jersey of Steels. He's spotted the line and he's gone for it. What a finish here by Tom Steels. Stuart O'Grady challenging him all too late. Tom Steels has got 2 wins out of 2. What a finish.
But Tom Steels, Phil, is proving he's the fastest sprinter in this Tour de France. The team are not helping him at all, but once he finds the gap, he goes straight through it. And you see Eric Zabel again is close to the win, but just can't quite make it.
The riders in the Tour de France are always under pressure. The last thing Jackie Giron wanted was a slap in the face from his own team car. And let's hope he didn't damage the machine either, because one of those Lotto bikes is our competition prize this week. And if that wasn't enough, poor Jackie was almost run over by a rival team car. In the end, with pain a part of his daily life in the Tour, the Frenchman continued and is currently 170th overall. But when your luck's in, it's really in. And the Belgian Tom Steels celebrated in grand style his second stage win at the Tour in Laval yesterday. If he can make it 3 in a row today, he equals the 51 years old record of the Italian Gino Bartoli. So can he?
I hope so.
Well, he shouldn't lack confidence because he's never sprinted better in his life. And the course today, the same distance as yesterday, 194.5 kilometres. But there are some great sprinters in this year's Tour de France. So let's go to Paul Sherwin now, who will assess the form of the men who think they can beat him.
Mario Cipollini would be a good bet to beat Tom Steels. He was fuming after the finish yesterday. He'd been in an ideal position to win. In one of the last corners, he was forced off his line and another rider tried to climb over his back wheel. He lost his place in the pack. Super Mario loves the headlines and he'll try and grab them again today. Eric Zabel has been consistently near the front of the pack since the start of the Tour. He'd love to win today. It's his birthday. But he seems to have lost a bit of his speed and hasn't won a stage in the Tour de France since 1997. New kid on the block is Jimmy Casper. He's cocky and confident enough to win. At 21 years of age, though, he's still learning. But if he can get a clear shot at the line, he'll show them his pure speed. His frustration at losing yesterday was evident, and he banged his handlebars in rage and disappointment. Jan Kersipu is the most successful rider of the current season with 15 wins. He's already shown he's one of the fastest sprinters at the Tour, but he's using a lot of energy to hold on to the yellow jersey, and his focus is not totally on winning the stage. Stuart O'Grady's not a real sprinter like Eric Zabel or Mario Cipollini, but he's determined and courageous enough to hold his place with the big boys. If anyone makes a mistake in the last 300 metres, O'Grady will be ready to pounce. All of those riders are going to be up to beat Tom Steels today, but if it does come down to a sprint at the end, it's a 1 kilometre straight road up to the finish line, and Seiko Cannondale are the ideal team to put Mario Cipollini into orbit. If it is going to be a sprint, I reckon Mario's going to win.
Confident Paul Sherwin there. 177 riders left in the race. 194 kilometres the distance today as we go from Laval to Blois. And a nice gentle rollout, Paul, but this race hasn't wasted any time at all so far.
Jackie Durand on the front there, but it's a very fast stage. You can see the average over the first couple of hours of the day, 50.3 kilometres an hour.
Well, we're into the last kilometre now here at Blois, and again it's Mike Weissman who looks over his shoulder and sees if he's got his man on his wheel, and he hasn't, and he gives up sprinting because of it. Zabel again hasn't done anything about it, but this man's got Cipollini on his wheel and a perfect lead out now. This will be Gian Matteo Fagnini who's taking now Cipollini, shown in the finish. He's gone for it. Cipollini is towing the best sprinters towards the line, but you'll never get by this man when he has such a clear shot at the finish line, and he's being challenged right by Zabel again. Zabel beaten, and right on the line, Mario Cipollini is back.
Super Mario, give him a finishing straight like that, Phil, and nobody is going to come past him when he's in full flow. And again, Eric Zabel's there, but the speed is gone.
He must be feeling very frustrated, and again O'Grady getting into the frame, but Mario Cipollini, he looks so cool when he wins. There's the result, ahead of Zabel O'Grady. Tom Steele's this time having to be content with 4th place, and looking further down, Kersey, all of the sprinters getting through and finding the Lion King was roaring the best here on the road to Blois today. On the podium then, his first victory in a stage in the Tour de France this year, and now looking much more confident. Overall, though, Kersey keeps his yellow jersey, 16 seconds ahead of O'Grady, 21 ahead of Steeles, and Lance Armstrong, the first leader, has only dropped down to 4th in amongst the sprinters. There's plenty more racing to come. .355 kilometres an hour in the Tour de France yesterday, a record average speed, the first time the riders have ever beaten 50 kilometres an hour for a road race. In fact, that's the speed we're driving along at the moment, to give you some idea. Even in the town of Blois, the riders were exceeding the speed limit, and Mario Cipollini is the man that won the day. Let's go to Gary Imlach now to tell us more about an extraordinary day in the Tour de France.
You know, yesterday's stage was so fast it was a day early, because for purposes of perfect symmetry, the new record really should have been set here in Amiens, where the old one was. In 1993, Johan Bruneel clocked just under 49.5 kilometres on the stage from Evreux to Amiens. And there was no peloton to help pull him along either, just a cooperative westerly wind at his back.
As the crowd start to applaud him, and then the clock will tell us whether in fact he's done enough to wear the yellow jersey tonight. That's why he's fighting all the way to the line. He crosses the line as the winner.
Funnily enough, the next man in behind him that day was Mario Cipollini, winning the sprint for 2nd place and taking the yellow jersey. Yesterday, the roles were reversed. Like everyone else, Bruneel was behind Cipollini in the support car of the US Postal Team, where he's now manager.
It was logical. It was a very, very strong tailwind, and the records are set to be broken. So yesterday it happened. The good thing of the part is that it was broken by Cipollini. When I set the record, he was 2nd, so I'm not there anymore now. He has the record now.
And as it turned out, he'd set it despite the weight of a huge chip on his shoulder. 32 years old and in the final year of a lucrative contract with Saeco, Mario revealed after the stage that he'd been unable to agree terms with his old team for next season.
Ma è la sensazione quando hai magari un bel Mercedes però 6.000 di cilindrata, è uscito il modello nuovo e la gente magari opta per il modello nuovo che ha sicuramente caratteristiche inferiori al vecchio modello.
Of course, even an old Mercedes will still leave a field of Ford Escort standing, as Mario's already demonstrated this year with 4 stage wins in the Giro d'Italia to bring his total to a record 29. Lampre and Cofidis are rumoured to be among the teams willing to offer the old clothes horse a costume change for next season, with colour scheme probably just behind cash and length of contract as a deciding factor. In the meantime, 2 big questions remain. Does having a picture of Pamela Anderson on your handlebars qualify as an artificial stimulant? And the obvious follow-up question that he no doubt gets asked at home.
Mario, perché non hai una fotografia della moglie sul suo manubrio?
Ma mia moglie me la ricordo bene anche senza dover fare le foto.
Now, can he do it? A breakaway of 10 riders has been caught after a long move, but it came to nothing. Now we're going down to another sprint finish, Paul.
On the front again, Cantilla Toller. They want to get it together for Nicola Minali, but always the white jersey of the Australian champion, Henk Vogels, is there. He's trying to get a stage win as well for Stuart O'Grady, who's been very consistent. Frances de Jure right in the middle, picking it up. That's Christophe Bassin, but right behind him, the three red and white jerseys of the Seiko Cannondale team, and that's Mario Cipollini's boys.
Well, Cipollini's tail is really up now after he got his first win yesterday. Once this man gets confidence, he's very difficult to dislodge. Everybody seems to be looking for the wheel of Mario Cipollini, and that's the one to follow now. Again, the last lead out from Fagnini now as he goes as fast as he can. Cipollini just sits there as cool as you like, Lars. Mikkelsen tries to challenge as well. Zorbel again just off to our left. There was a nasty switch on the right-hand side there. Cipollini wasn't involved, though, as he comes clear now, launched into space. On the far left, Zorbel has his best chance ever, though. Zorbel goes for it now. Cipollini, and coming is Tom Steels. Steels comes past Zorbel, but on the line, Cipollini makes it 2 in a row, and right behind him was Tom Steels. What a finish again.
Unbelievable. Super Mario, he's pretty happy with that. Everyone said he'd lost his speed, but look at this. He sees the sprint on the right-hand side. It comes from Eric Zabel, and he realises that's the moment he has to move. He kicks it in. He's got the big gear going. Gian Matteo Fagnini sits up and lets him go by. And Mario Cipollini, Phil, he's come back to the Super Mario he was before. And I tell you what, he loves to look over his shoulder to see how far behind him everybody was in the sprint.
Well, Zabel just went too soon. It looked as though he had the speed, but he faded, and then when he faded, Cipollini won, and coming in there in third place, the yellow jersey of Jan Kursipuu. So he gets a useful few seconds bonus as well, behind Cipollini and Steels. Robbie McEwen not quite there yet, fourth place for him. Zabel faded to fifth. So 2 out of 2 for Cipollini. He's now looking at the possible equaling of Bartoli's record of 51 years ago, but no change overall. Kursipuu 17 seconds ahead of Steels, 24 on O'Grady, and 32 on Lance Armstrong. The Tour de France reached the Somme on the beauty of the Picardy yesterday. Playboy Italian Mario Cipollini started his day in beach mode, and then he finished it in full flight to take his second win in a row. 2 days ago, the star sprinter was Tom Steels, and Super Mario was anything but. Now, having won the fastest stage ever in a Tour de France on Wednesday, Cipollini has his sights on Gino Bartoli's 51-years-old record of 3 wins in a row. It could happen today. Well, you just can't suppress Mario Cipollini, and if things go well for him tonight, he could be in the leader's yellow jersey too. He's now the second rider this week to have a shot at Gino Bartoli's 1948 record of 3 stage wins in a row. Here's Gary Imlach now to look at the opportunity for Big Mario to put his name in the record books for the second time this week.
Mario has never actually finished a Tour and has never won a stage past the traditional sprinters' territory of the first week. However, he is the best sprinter of his generation, and a win today would put him alongside one of Italy's greatest cycling heroes. As soon as yesterday's stage was over, he was already thinking about it.
Sarebbe una bella cosa fare 3 vittorie consecutive. Mi sembra che sia già qualche anno fa che non avviene, perciò sono uno che è adatto a battere il record e speriamo che questa sia una cosa possibile.
Actually, Cippo already has a hat-trick of sorts in the bag, because this is the 3rd year running that he's scored consecutive wins. In '97, he took stages 1 and 2 before Eric Zabel beat him on an uphill finish in Plumelec. Last year, it was stages 5 and 6, which turned out to be bad timing, because stage 7 was a time trial, where he was never really likely to challenge for the win. This year could be his best ever chance. Mind you, if he's feeling the pressure, he's certainly not showing it. Cippo spent most of yesterday working on his tan lines and reenacting his favourite episodes of Benny Hill. When it comes to the crucial last kilometre, though, he's all business, marshalling his lead-out men from behind to make sure he's in the perfect position when it matters.
Però un input ci vuole dalle spalle, è soltanto il fatto di riuscire a capire se sono a ruota. Io chiamo Fagnini chiama Mario, e quello è il momento che siamo tutti in linea e lì possiamo partire. Diciamo che questo è un meccanismo che non serve provarlo, perché ormai da anni che lo facciamo, è una cosa come le triangolazioni tra i calciatori fanno.
If the Seiko midfield can do their job and spring the offside trap today, the big man should have a clear run at goal. There's no uphill finish like there was in '97 when Eric Zabel beat him, just a 2-kilometre home straight. This finish could have been tailor-made for Cippo in Milan and couriered out specially for the occasion.
Indeed it could, Gary. Well, they're rolling away again. 171 kilometres now from Amiens to Maubeuge, and Cipollini is aiming for that 51-year-old record of Gino Barti, at least to equal the great Italian maestro.
Quite a few riders in the field could challenge him. Jans Verrada, who at the moment rides for Lampre, his team are leading out right on the front. In the second position there is Mariano Piccoli. In fourth position is Jans Verrada. Eric Zabel also would like to prevent Cipollini from winning, Phil, and Eric Zabel is right in there at the moment.
And he'd love to win right now. Piccoli, though, in that polka dot jersey, he's led from day one so far as he heads towards the first mountains of the Alps, but the sprinters are getting their turn again here now. Watch out for Cipollini. He's not in evidence yet as they come towards the line now. There's Cipollini again behind his lead-out man, but all of the boys here on the Lampre team moving over now as again Fagnini, third day running, is making a run at the line here with Cipollini on his wheel. The yellow jersey of Cursipu is still in there. 6-second time bonus out on the course for him today. Tom Steels, though, has swung right across the course there to grab the back wheel of Cipollini. He's got the back wheel, and Steels is coming over on Cipollini. Shoulder, shoulder, Steels on the line, but I'm not so sure the judges will like that, Paul. It looked a little bit shaky.
A lot of riders diving across the road. The thing is, when you're in a sprint like this, you're looking for the slipstream of the wheel in front. This is the infringement the judges are going to look at, Phil. The green jersey moving across there, just hitting the shoulders of Jans Verrada. So Verrada keeping him upright, but that's why Steels went. He wanted to get onto the wheel of Mario Cipollini. Once he got in there, he got a breather for a fraction of a second and then moves alongside and kicks with that incredible turn of speed he's got in the last 50 metres and moves forward, comes up alongside Cipollini, puts his arm onto Cipollini as well, but in the lunge for the line, there's no problem there. He's first over it, but the judges are discussing it right now.
Well, let's have another look from the front here. A little bit of a clash of elbows there. Nothing wrong with that, but already Verrada has sat up out of it. A little bit of a wry smile on his face as over the line first comes Tom Steels in green, Cipollini second, and third over the line again is Eric Zabel with the yellow jersey there of Jan Cursipu just behind. Tom Steels has been called onto the podium by the race organisation, but almost at the same time as he takes the applause of the crowd here. The referees are saying he has been disqualified from first place and placed to the back of the field for his dangerous sprinting. So, in fact, Cipollini is the stage winner. He's already left the area, by the way, but there is confirmation of the result. Cipollini wins ahead of Zabel, Cursipu and Verrada. So Cursipu gets another valuable third-place sprint bonus. Tom Steels at the back of the pack, 170 seconds, so that's pretty low. And so overall now there will be an increase in the leadership of Jan Cursipu, who'll now lead the Tour by 26 seconds ahead of Cipollini. Tom Steels is third and O'Grady there at 38 seconds. Armstrong losing a bit in the time bonuses here now. He is down to sixth place, 46 seconds off the pace. He won't be too worried about that, I shouldn't think. No, perhaps not, but Mario Cipollini, Paul, if he can win this one over 227 kilometres, he'll become the first man in 69 years, since Charles Pélissier, in fact, to win 4 stages straight.
And the sprinters certainly want to have their day, because today is the last flat stage before the time trial, and then 2 very big mountain stages, and that's when the sprinters of this year's Tour de France are going to have to take a back seat.
US Postal Boys, evidence at the front. There's Tom Steels chatting with Mario Cipollini. The strange thing was the riders didn't complain about the sprinting of Tom Steels yesterday, and I think perhaps it was a rather hard decision by the race referees.
It's always a difficult time, a sprint, because you only have an eye of what's in front of you. You don't think about what's happening towards the side. You just go for the wheel and you go for the gap. And when you're a sprinter like that, Phil, you just have to take the chance when it comes.
So 20 kilometres now wind today from the northeast, and the riders themselves again making good time. This Tour continues on at record-breaking speed. We've seen that wonderful stage of over 50 kilometres now, won by Cipollini. Now here's a man, records falling in his first week, and they're all going the way of the man in red, and he could well do it again now.
A late attack from Rabobank there, but it's not going anywhere at all. It's again going to be the big lead out on the front. Stefan Weissermann from Team Telecom. Behind him, Gian Matteo Fanini. And then in third place, that's Mario Cipollini looking for the big record.
Well, this again is Stefan Weissermann, who is trying to lead out his man Erik Zabel, who's in green. Zabel's fourth wheel around the corner. He just can't seem to get it quite right, you know, and he's trying to equal the stage win record of 8 by Rudi Altig for Germany. And again, he's a little bit away from it now. Weissermann once more doesn't realise it. He's inexperienced, perhaps in his first tour. Leading out the wrong man, leading out Fognini. Fognini now once more launching the missile at the finish, as again he waits until the last possible moment. Cipollini, remember, he's aiming now at a 69-year-old record. Cipollini's gone, and what's happened to Zabel? Lost both his pedals at the same time, and how he's kept that bike upright, I don't know, but he's given a clear run now to Cipollini. He's done it 4 in a row for Mario Cipollini, but I think I'd like to see what happened to Erik Zabel again there, Paul.
That was unbelievable. Both his feet came out of the pedals at the same time. I really don't know how he stayed upright. But this is the kick. In fact, you can see both legs came out. They went behind him. He managed to pull them up, but he never let go of the handlebars, and that's how he managed to control the machine. But that had nothing to do with the win of Mario Cipollini, because Cipollini was already in the lead, almost a length ahead of Stuart O'Grady. And once he'd got the chance of that great record, he just put his head down and went to the line. O'Grady had to be happy with second.
Yes, poor old Stuart, but at least they all got out of the way. A potential crash there from Erik Zabel, as this man just looks over his shoulder, makes it look so easy. He's now got 4 wins straight, and he's also got the fastest stage ever of the Tour this week. Cipollini then winning ahead of O'Grady and Kersipu. Overall, Cipollini still 14 seconds off yellow.
This is the launch pad of the individual time trial at the Tour de France. For many of the lesser riders, there's always a sensation of fear when you come in there, because you're looking elimination in the face. But for the big names, it's the first time in a week that they have to come out and really put their cards on the table, because at the end of the individual time trial that we get an idea of just exactly who's going to win the Tour de France. That's why they call it the race of truth.
And this man, who's surprised at the Puy de Fou in the prologue, is at it again here, because his checks are very, very quick at every mark we go through, Paul. He is rewriting the time check book. But this accident out on the course, and this is Bobby Julich. We've heard about it, now we can get a look at it. Poor Julich has misjudged his right-hander and has gone down very, very badly indeed.
This is one of the most dangerous parts of the course, but Armstrong has ridden by him. Armstrong himself realising that he is doing great times out on the course. Boardman set the early times, but now Armstrong goes through here after 33 kilometres with the best time covered.
And this is what is happening. Lance Armstrong, it's all coming together again, just like it did on the Puy de Fou. This is a man who really has learned to time trial and is beginning to embarrass everybody, especially the rider in front of him here, because he's pulling back man after man. This looks like George Hincapie.
Yeah, his teammate Abraham Alano looks as if he's had a problem going around one of the corners there. He's back up on his machine. He's getting pushed by one of the spectators at the side of the road, and he must have lost it in that corner, Phil.
Well, I think it's a left-hand corner. He's just... Oh, we can have a look at it again here now. It's a left-hand corner, completely out of control. There's no way he was going anywhere. He locks up his back wheel. Well, thank heavens there was a straw bale there, but that's called a headstand in front of the public, and the world champion is going to be embarrassed about that, because, in fact, Armstrong is coming right up behind him.
Armstrong is riding an incredible race, starting 2 minutes behind the world champion at the time trial. He's already got him in sight, and this is going to be a double blow, really, to Abraham Alano, the world champion at this discipline.
Well, you know, Abraham Alano has never been caught as a professional in a time trial before, and all that is about to change, and Armstrong is the man to do it. Is there no end to this rider this year, because Armstrong just can do absolutely nothing wrong?
Well, the last time I saw him ride a time trial like this, Phil, was 1996, the Tour du Pont, which he absolutely dominated. He won that time trial stage there at over 32 miles an hour. But he has changed. His position on the machine has changed. He's got a very aerodynamic helmet. But the important thing is the speed at which he's pedaling. Look at that cadence. It's up around 100 RPM.
Well, since his cancer therapy and his chemotherapy, he has lost an awful lot of weight in his training, in his comeback. Those that thought after his Paris-Nice race last year that he was going home for good were proved absolutely wrong. This man has waited to come to the Tour de France this year. He's come, and he's come in the biggest way you could imagine. Armstrong is now racing to the best time here as we go back to the finish. Dufault and Zuller is the best time in. We didn't see him finish, but Dufault now 1:12, only 6th for him.
This is great. Look at this. This is Armstrong catching a man who started 6 minutes in front of him. This is the Belgian sprinter, Tom Steels, and he's going to get a major shock. Abraham Olano, Phil, is fighting to try and stay in contact.
Well, if anything, he's gone slightly better since Armstrong caught him. That might be a little bit of pride there, but he's tried to lift his race. This is Tom Steels now as Armstrong continues, and Steels has got no chance here of keeping up, I don't think.
Well, I have to say, Phil, I think, in fact, Armstrong is weakening over the last 10 kilometres of this course because he's caught all of the other riders in front of him. He's dropped them very easily, but now Tom Steels, who is not riding a great time trial, has managed to stay in contact with Armstrong. But look at this time by Moreau.
Well, again, Christophe Moreau has shown us what a great time trial rider he is, and he's still surviving up near the top of the leaderboard too, and this will keep him there. He's only a bit slower than Alex Zuller, second at the moment, and 1 minute 6 seconds off the leaderboard. Tom Steele still trying to keep Lance Armstrong in sight at 1 kilometre to go.
Armstrong has set the fastest times at every time check so far, Phil, and some of them have been incredible times. He was almost a minute faster than Alex Zuller, and now he's coming up to the line, and look at that, he's almost a minute faster on the finish line as well.
Well, we are going to see a second stage win here, and the second time trial win for Lance Armstrong, and it could well be a yellow jersey as well. Armstrong 1:8:36, an incredible time. Lance Armstrong has reclaimed the maillot jaune that he won at the Puy de Fou, and you can say that before the arrival of Abraham Olano, who has been caught for 2 minutes by Armstrong and is just trying to salvage a reasonable time, and it will be around 5th overall on the day, 1:10:58, and 5th for Olano.
Unbelievable. Olano looked fantastic in the first kilometres of this time trial. I thought he looked good, but he could do nothing against the onslaught of Lance Armstrong. This man has ridden the time trial at almost exactly the same speed as he rode the opening prologue. That announces it's going to be a pretty impressive ride when we go into the mountains after the rest day.
Well, can he continue? This is unbelievable here. Lance Armstrong, though, the winner of the time trial by almost a minute over Alex Zuller. Moreau taking third, but over 2 minutes off the pace. And Olano even further back. Tyler Hamilton, another good time trial by him at 3:31, although he won't give his all today because he knows now he's going to have to work for Lance Armstrong in the overall race for yellow. Chris Boardman, a little bit off the pace there, 6th for him. So the yellow jersey back on the shoulders of Lance Armstrong 1 week into the Tour de France. It's an awful long way to go yet, but look at these gaps now. These are sensational time gaps. 2:20 on Christophe Moreau, 2:33 on Olano, 3:25 on O'Grady. The big question is, can his team now support him for 2 weeks of the Tour de France and keep him in yellow? It's going to take an awful lot of doing, and the pressure's on them. Hello and welcome to Tour Plus. Well, after 1,468 kilometres and 9 days of racing, the Tour de France has reached the mountains. For some, they are high roads to conquer, bring joy and celebration and the happiest of memories. For others, they bring opposite emotions of pain, sadness and defeat. Since the Puy de Fou, this race has been a fairy tale for Lance Armstrong. Now, having excelled on the flat, does he fear the 2 days ahead?
Coming into the Tour, I thought, and my coaches and the people on the team thought that my strength in the Tour would be my climbing and not my time trial. And so if that holds true, then I might be able to hold on.
So Armstrong seems ready and confident. This is the overall situation this morning. He leads Christophe Moreau by 2 minutes 20 seconds and Abraham Olano by 2:33. Stuart O'Grady, the Australian, also doing well in 4th. Of the others who should look forward to today, Pavel Tonkov is 13th and 5 minutes 10 seconds back. Alex Zuller, after a good time trial, is creeping back at 7:08. And Chris Boardman, he'll have a tough day today, but he's still riding the Tour in 123rd position. And a massive crowd now, the riders having flown overnight some 500 kilometres down to the start here. And now it's a day on as they face up to 213 kilometres of alpine climbing. And not coming on the aeroplane trip are Jimmy Casper and Nicola Manali, two sprinters who've decided to stay up north as the riders now make their way towards the high mountains of the Tour. 15 kilometres an hour, slight wind today, and it's going to be warm, but rain is threatened.
28 degrees maximum in the valleys, but it will be very cold over the summits. And already, Phil, the American flag making its appearance on the Tour de France here. Lance has got an awful lot of supporters for his yellow jersey.
Well, Lance said the jersey was kept warm for the next rider. That's what he said when he gave it to Kersipou, but I bet he didn't believe Kersipou would give it back to him. This is Konishev now towards the top of the Col de Marais. 15 kilometres covered, and Konishev gets the points ahead of Mariano Piccoli and Lilian Le Breton. Now, the next climb coming at 38.5 kilometres, the Col de Tamier.
Again, Mariano Piccoli, the leader of the King of the Mountains competition. He's been fantastic over the first week of the Tour, Phil, and he's trying to build up as big a lead as possible to try and hold on to that jersey. But over the big mountains, he will certainly get challenged.
Well, this is the 12-kilometre or 7-mile climb now of the Col de Telegraph. It takes the riders up to 1,566 metres. 31st time the riders have come up here now as they make their way towards the summit. Arrieta has got clear of the field, and as you can see now, as we start on what is the stepping stone to the Galibier, the rain has also started here.
Richard Virenque went across in 6th place there, 5.5 minutes behind. But what's happening now, Phil, is the teams of Kelme and the teams of Ernesto are launching riders up the road because this is the strategy. They're certainly going to try and place an attack on the lead of Armstrong on here, the slopes of the Galibier.
Well, this is the first real big test for Lance Armstrong now. I know he's seen all of these roads in training. He's prepared for the mountains of the Tour de France. His time trialling has surprised him a little bit, but the big test now is, will he survive the attacks from the Spaniards? Because it's been reported all of the Spanish teams are going to attack him today.
Well, this is Joaquim Castelblanco from Kelme. He's gone out of the front of this very small group. And I have to say one thing, Phil. US Postal Service have done a fantastic job today looking after Lance Armstrong. On the front here is Tyler Hamilton. Following him is Kevin Livingston. These two guys have certainly got to ride their hearts out today for Lance Armstrong to defend him. And one thing today that Armstrong must be thinking about, that unfortunate abandon of the man Jonathan Vaughters, because he would have been fantastic in the climbs.
The same thought was going through my mind there, Paul, but these two riders are prepared now to give their all to their new leader in Lance Armstrong. He has brought so much out of his team because of his strength, but now the Kelme boys are attacking, and this is what we expected.
Well, this is Fernando Escartin. They said they wanted to attack Armstrong in the mountains. Armstrong felt confident he must respond to these attacks, but for the moment, Phil, he hasn't got out of the saddle. He's staying in the slipstream of his two leaders, those two men in front of him who are taking him up the climb. Richard Virenque now, the Polti rider, he's attacking to get across. He realises this is a great chance to try and put the yellow jersey into difficulty.
Well, this is a little bit of a decision time now for Lance, because he's got to know when to panic and when not to panic. He might be wise to hold off for as long as he can, just to make sure that these attacks are going to go somewhere. He's allowing riders to spring clear. This is Angelo Casero who's going clear, and champion of Spain, and as the Spanish riders get up and start mixing it together here, this is going to be a tough one. Escartin, he's got to make his move early. Remember, we're racing towards Italy today. We expect to see the Italians play their part as well. Here's Virenque.
He was only brought into the Tour de France at the very last minute, but he's trying to redeem himself. He's trying to prove that he is still a competitive rider. Here we're looking here at Manuel Beltran, number 162, and the man, in fact, Escartin, who Lance Armstrong really believes is his biggest danger, and he's got Castelblanco with him. Armstrong has not responded, but you can see what's happened here because Kevin Livingston has picked up the pace. The only man they've really got left with them now is Alex Zuller, and he's blowing that group to pieces.
One by one, the US Postal boys are giving their 110% and falling away. There's only one left with Lance Armstrong now, and that's Kevin Livingstone. Livingstone himself is going to give everything he can to the cause here. Armstrong is still waiting. Remember, this is a real tough day today, and it finishes up the mountain of Sestriere as well. After the Col de Galibier, we've got the Col de Montgenèvre, and we're getting high in the sky now, and conditions are pretty cool and miserable up here.
These are conditions just like last year when Marco Pantani jumped away from Jan Ullrich and blew the Tour de France upside down. At the end of the day, Jan Ullrich ended up losing more than 9 minutes to the little Spaniard and the little Italian, and that day, in fact, Marco Pantani put the yellow jersey on his shoulders and took them all the way to Paris. And it was on that day that the people thought that the Tour de France was over because Jan Ullrich was already installed at the top of the leaderboard.
Well, the rain is becoming more and more torrential, and where we are at Sestria, it is absolutely coming down in buckets at the moment, and we're a couple of mountains away from these riders. The Kelme boys now, this was a planned attack, Paul, the way they've done one-on-one all day, but this is the serious
points in the King of the Mountains competition, but they are going to go to Arrieta, who will go over the top in first position here.
Indeed he will, and it is Virenque who's chasing him. His colours do look alike with Casero at the moment with his Polti colours, but this man is going to stop and pull on his rain cape. Well, while he does, we can join Gary Imlach.
We haven't seen Mario Cipollini today, which is no surprise on a mountain stage, but it's not because he's gone home, which, if you'll remember, was originally the plan after the time trial in Metz. Apparently, though, Mario decided, what with his historic 4 consecutive stage wins and all, he was obliged to ride the Tour's one Italian stage, Per la Gente, for the people. And just so that La Gente would recognise him this morning, he turned up dressed as Julius Caesar, which naturally was an honour for Caesar. The excuse, not that he really needed one, was the 2099th anniversary of Caesar's birth. Either that or Chippo just wanted to force the tour organisers to fine him for a breach of the clothing regulations like they do every year. Well, the organisers obliged and slapped him with a penalty of 6,000 Swiss francs, which is about £3,000 sterling. And lighter in the pocket, but apparently weighed down by history, Chippo set off and has been languishing at the back of the field all day. And for those of you sitting at home thinking things couldn't get much more ludicrous on the equipment front this side of a pair of Gucci cycling shoes, let me present to you, if I can get one out of the bag, the Gucci cycling shoe. £175 at all Bond Street's finest cycling establishments, and I dare you to wear a pair on your next Sunday morning club ride.
Thanks, Gary. I'll send you my address. Right, back to the race now as we come up towards the top of the Col de Galibier, climbed for the 50th time in Tour history today. Richard Virenque is there too and looking a little bit scratchy. He's trying to get the points as he comes clear to take second place over the top from Dufault, who's wearing that illegal racing strip for which has cost him a few bob today.
It certainly has, but they're not too worried about that at the moment. What they're worried about is getting themselves down off the Col de Galibier. Jose Luis Arrieta was first over the top, but Phil, further down the climb, Abraham Olano is having a serious problem.
Well, Olano always seems to have a problem with the Tour de France. His best finish is 4th, and again dropped on the climb. It all started to go wrong on the Col de Telegraph for him, and he's now going over the top a long way behind here. There's the whole field finding the weather not at all good, as it so often is on the first day in the mountains.
Stefano Gazzelli, the Mercatone Uno rider, on the front there. Alongside him, Giuseppe Guerini and Vladimiro Belli. But I have to say, Christophe Moreau, the Festina rider there, is doing a fantastic ride. He was currently second overall in the standings, and if he recovers on the descent, he may well keep that place till tomorrow.
Well, good for him. It's a big test for him today in the mountains, but so far, Lance Armstrong and what's left of his team, which is only one rider, and that is Kevin Livingstone, has come up with the answers to the Spanish riders who have attacked really since the mountains began. This rider, Richard Virenque, again now, who hasn't taken part in the mountains competition until today, and that's what his tactic normally is. Remember, he's won it 4 times in the last 5 years, and he was thrown out of the Tour last year as the linkage with the Festina doping system. Now, as we start on to the next climb of the day here, up the climb of Mont Genève, this is the stepping stone to Sestriere. The top of this climb takes us into Italy, and a general regrouping. They're only 44 seconds back now.
And a lot of big riders in that group. Pavel Tonkov, Abraham Olano, they're all trying to get themselves back up to the yellow jersey group of Lance Armstrong. In fact, both Kevin Livingstone and Tyler Hamilton are in the second group on the road. So that leading group of riders, in fact, Lance Armstrong is on his own. And this is when the attacks are certain to come from Escartine and Zuller, who are on the front of the group at the moment.
Well, the field regrouped, a front group of some 9 riders getting together on the descent of the Galibier down into Briançon. And now on this climb here, Armstrong looks to be looking very, very good indeed here. We've got Casero and Virenque both together, and sitting there at the back is Contreras.
Moving
All
into that
climbers,
group as well
Paul.
is Ivan Gotti, the winner of the Tour of Italy this year. Obviously wants to ride well on the slopes of Sestriere, but this is a very select group of riders. These are the riders who at the end of 3 weeks are going to be fighting it out for the overall win at the Tour de France. On the back there, Contreras, he's replaced the Kelme rider Castelblanco in the front of this group, but in second position there is Fernando Escartin, the man who really launched a searing attack on the slopes of the Galibier. In third place, 61, is Ivan Gotti, but I reckon today he's doing a fair amount of work for Richard Virenque, who is really moving up the rankings in the King of the Mountains competition.
Well, this is Escartin and Beltran at the front now. But I don't know if you saw or caught a glimpse then of Armstrong, Paul. He looks so relaxed sitting there watching everybody, rightly so. It's not up to him to attack now. He just watches everybody making the moves. He's built the sort of lead we've seen from Miguel Indurain and Bernard Hinault in the recent past history of the Tour de France. Look at this now. Alano goes under, and he's a long way back.
He really is having a hard time. This guy, I felt this year, had a serious crack at the Tour de France, but every time we go into the big mountains, he seems to come under pressure. He's got David Echavarria with him right on the front there, really helping him out. And the other man in the group there with him as well is Perez Rodriguez, who's doing a pretty good job looking after him.
But right now it's Manuel Beltran doing a pretty good job nursing this group with his team captain in. Alex Zula sat near the back. Beltran brought in the days of Miguel Indurain, now having to nurse, hopefully to victory, Alex Zula, who has joined the Banesto team this year. There he is. Doesn't look as though he's enjoying it too much. He's had a terrible tour so far. He's still lost 6 minutes in the Passage du Bois, and of course he's also lost time on both time trials to Armstrong.
34th overall at the start of this morning, but he's going to climb up a fair way in the rankings, Phil. But further back in the race at the moment, Jan Kursipu, the man who led this race for almost the whole of the first week, is in serious difficulty. Mario Cipollini is in the laughing group. I don't really know why they call it the laughing group, because it's not much fun on a day like this. So is Christophe Renero, the man who was 4th overall in the Tour de France last year. So a lot of big names have got blown out on this first big mountain stage.
Well, this rider in big trouble here because he's over 2 minutes behind that Armstrong group now as they climb on and the roads get a little bit steeper. It is Marcus Serrano who is leading him there, trying to nurse him through. But as we look from the helicopter right up to the top there, that's where the lead group is.
They did an excellent job along the valley road through Briançon. In fact, they pulled back Abraham Olano to within 44 seconds of this leading group with Armstrong in it. But now they've started to climb again. They're losing serious time once again. And the attacks, Phil, are certainly going to come towards the summit of this climb, because from the top of the Col de Montgenèvre, there are 30 kilometres to go to the finish in Sestriere. Half of it downhill, the rest right up to the summit in the ski resort.
And that's all on Italian roads, and this rider now would love to be the winner there at Sestriere. Ivan Gotti of the Polti team, the recent winner of the Giro d'Italia, but some might say by default after the disqualification of Marco Pantani with 2 days to go. But Gotti also smarting after that crash on the Passage du Bois. And same as Zulla, lost over 6 minutes that day. And Armstrong, I think, must feel pretty content with that big margin between the two of them right now.
His face is complete concentration. He doesn't seem worried at all in these mountains. People like Chris Carmichael felt that Armstrong would be stronger in the mountains than in the time trial. Confirmation of the gap back to Abraham Olano's group there, 1 minute and 20 seconds. But the big climbers of the Tour de France here are in this group with Lance Armstrong. 1 kilometre to go to the summit of the Col de Montgenèvre, and he's really doing a great job eliminating one man who he thought was a great challenger, and that's Abraham Olano.
And a rider we thought would have been a challenger too, Alexander Vinokourov. He's been dropped a lot earlier than that today and is a long way behind. Contreras setting the pace now, hoping that Escartin might do something later on. Off to the left there is Dufault in the white jersey instead of the red jersey of Seiko Cannondale. Virenque again just following the wheels and waiting to see that banner and sprint for the King of the Mountains points. There's a huge crowd here now because we're looking down at France, but in the distance is Italy.
Once they go over the summit of this climb, they go through the French border, and then as soon as they begin the descent, they go through the Italian border. And the descent down into the valley below Sestriere, Phil, is normally a pretty tricky one, but it is still damp down there because of the rain that we've been experiencing throughout most of this afternoon.
And we've had some torrential rain at Sestriere. At the moment, the sun has come out, but here in the Alps, the weather changes so quickly. This is an amazing select group of climbers here now. Beltran has given everything here in the hope that he can can soften up the opposition for Alex Zuller. Virenque looking as cool as a cucumber as ever, and the same has to be said of Lance Armstrong. He didn't panic when the attacks came on the Cols de Glibier and the Col de Telegraph. He allowed the moves. He's come back into the action, and now Virenque is going for the King of the Mountains points here. Looks across. Armstrong allows nothing to move.
Armstrong very attentive, just waiting for any acceleration from these climbers. He used his team perfectly as Virenque goes over the top to get maximum points there. He waited until the last possible moment, and then when he had to assume control, he went away on his own and countered all of the moves. He's riding like a real champion, like a real master tactician. That's why he's used his team, and now he has to assume control at the front of the race.
Well, he must have frightened the Spanish climbers here now, because they've seen the strength of Armstrong on these mountains today. He's ridden himself right back up to them. He's controlled them. He's alone now, and they've achieved something. At least they've isolated him, but he's proving to have all of the strength so far, and there's only one climb left to come to the finish.
The final climb of the day, and in fact it was on the descent, Phil, that those two riders got clear. But on that descent there were several crashes. One of them was Mario Cipollina, the other was Pavel Tonkov. But this is the most dangerous thing for Lance Armstrong, the attack from Fernando Escartin and Yvonne Gotti. These guys surprised Armstrong on the descent, and they're in front by about 25 seconds.
Well, these two took tremendous risks on slippery roads coming down, and the gap just simply opened up between them. There was no real acceleration. They just took risks, and the gap has opened back to the Armstrong group. There's the Armstrong group, and two climbers unusually breaking away going downhill now have the advantage here on the way up to the finish. But this chase group here trying to reorganise itself. There'll be nothing from Contreras now because he's got his man away.
Looks as if Arrieta has disappeared from this group. This is the face of Abraham Olano already on the early slopes. He's trying to ride off the group that he was with. He's limiting his losses today. If he wants to finish in the top three when we get up to Paris, he has to try and make sure he doesn't lose too much time to the other climbers on the mountain passes.
Well, this is Kurt van der Wouwer, who's giving the Lotto team some hope that they haven't finally got themselves a climber on that team. Well, look at that. Armstrong has gone. He must have read our caption. 32 seconds to the two leaders, and he must have realised that is enough. He's now gone. Now, can they answer this one, Paul? Because the acceleration of this man is incredible. He's looking so good.
That was unbelievable. He took a few risks going up through the inside there because somebody could easily have closed the door on him. The reaction came from Contreras to try and pull it back. He's gone round that corner so quickly. He's taken it very wide. Alex Zuller's the man who must respond. 161, the white shirt there on the shoulders of the Banesto rider. He has to try and get up to Armstrong, but Armstrong is flying away.
He's completely broken up that group now. Contreras has tried to go, even though he's been sitting at the back since his team captain went up the road. But I don't think he's got the legs now. I'm not so sure Zuller has either here. Escartin and Gotti are the two riders out in front, but the acceleration of Armstrong is absolutely frightening here. This is the sort of move that you would have seen Eddie Merckx do in his day, and not the sort of move we ever saw Miguel Indurain do.
But look at that time gap. He's already nailed it down to 11 seconds. He's just 11 seconds behind Escartin and Gotti in the space of less than 1 kilometre. He's ripped across that gap, and he's riding a superb race now. But there is a response coming from behind, and that is from Alex Zuller. Zuller realises that this is a dangerous move by Armstrong. There are the two leaders, Escartin in the green. That's Gotti in the yellow and red jersey from the Polti squad. But Armstrong has just ridden across like they were standing still.
Well, Lance Armstrong, who 18 months ago was contemplating a bleak future, never mind riding in the yellow jersey in the Tour de France, this was his big test day today, his next big test, and look how he's answered it. He's come right up to the two climbers. Goodness knows what Escartin thinks now. He's staring at the yellow jersey in the face.
Well, he must have expected to be able to put Lance Armstrong into difficulty today, because Armstrong has not really known as a major climber. This is his first real test as a leader of the Tour de France in the big mountain passes. He was 4th overall last year in the Tour of Spain, and that's when he said it was the first time he felt that he could accompany the big climbers in the big 3-week stage races. Today, he's actually staying with one of the best climbers in the Tour de France, Fernando Escartin.
Well, Escartin withdrew from the Tour last year when lying in 4th place overall because of the Spanish protest. And now this is Zuller. Zuller is trying to get across on his own, so that group has been completely blown apart now. Alex Zuller is having to ride across to join this very elite front group, and I'm not so sure he can make this. We've got 3 up front.
Well, it's amazing to see that Zuller hasn't laid down arms. You know, he had a very hard time after the third day on the Tour de France when he lost over 6 minutes through the Passage au Bois, but he stayed in the bike race, he stayed concentrated. He was second to Armstrong in that time trial around Metz, and now he's trying to keep himself in the overall rankings, because whatever happens, even though he's so far down, Phil, he's climbing up the standings today. Gotti now launching an attack. He's put Escartine into difficulty, and look at that, how Armstrong responded. He just moved up alongside Gotti to say, don't worry about it, sunshine, I'm in pretty good shape today.
Well, around this corner here now, they might be able to see the chalets of Sestriere. This has been a good recovery by the Banesto rider. Zuller is inch by inch coming back up alongside these three front runners. So that leading group of 9 is now a very select front group of 4. Well, almost anyway.
Gotti again trying to put the others into difficulty. They've looked over the shoulders and seen the return of Alex Zuller. But this is a great ride. This is what a champion is all about. It's all about not panicking when you're put into difficulty on a climb, finding your rhythm and riding yourself back into the bike race. Alex Zuller has done exactly that. He couldn't respond to that first attack of Lance Armstrong's, but once he got himself into his own rhythm, a good climbing rhythm, he's pulled himself back up to the leaders. Armstrong now taking up first position on the road.
Well, that's what the man in the yellow jersey should do, is show everybody else who's boss. This has been a fantastic day of riding for Armstrong so far. Never panicked early on. He's joined the front line of action and now dictating the pace, and we're heading up towards the finish. Armstrong really doesn't have to ride at the front now, because it's the other three who should attack him, but instead he's just driving this pace on. I do believe he's trying to crack Gotti.
Gotti was talking to his team manager there, just looking across at the Polti team car, just having a few words to say. Sorry, sunshine, he said, I can't attack. I'm just happy to stay here on the wheel of Lance Armstrong. His face is a picture of concentration. He's not showing any emotion at all. He's getting on with the job in hand. He's concentrated on getting those pedals round as quickly as possible. And again, Phil, he's reminding me very much of Miguel Indurain, the way he's pedaling. There's Johan Brunel coming up alongside in the US Postal team car. Few words with Lance Armstrong. Let's not forget, Johan Brunel has been a great tactician over the first week of this tour.
But really, he's got to be surprised by the riding of Armstrong, and he must be worried too that this man is giving away too much energy with the Pyrenees still to come and the final time trial. He's looking at 2 weeks in yellow at this point. And now look at him. He's lifted the pace again. Gotti is in trouble, and Escartine isn't looking too happy either.
Gotti couldn't stay on the wheel of Lance Armstrong, and it was up to Fernando Escartine to respond. He's losing 2 or 3 bike lengths there, but that's not a problem. He's going to close it down on Lance Armstrong because he is a fantastic climber. But in fact, Armstrong looking over his shoulder, he's seen he's got the gap and he's going to keep going.
I think you're absolutely right, and in fact Armstrong here is just lifting his pace, and he's just riding 3 of the finest climbers in the world off his wheel, and he's jumped out of the saddle. He's suddenly accelerated, and look at the gap.
Well, he couldn't believe it. He looked over his shoulder and saw that he had a gap. He could see that they weren't responding to him. And that's when he got out of the saddle. That's when the attack came. He already had 10 lengths advantage. This is phenomenal. He's out of the saddle, pushing it home now. And this is when he's really got to stick the knife into the wound and go for it to the summit of this climb. The first day in the mountains come down with a big hammer on the head of the climbers.
Well, Armstrong came to the Tour de France as an outsider, possibly to finish well up. But now he really is looking like the possible winner of the Tour de France here. He's won both time trials. He's now heading up to a likely victory here at Sestriere. If you can win the time trials and you win the mountains, well, there's not much left but to win the Tour de France. And here's Sestriere. There's the finishing line up there. He has ridden these riders off his wheel. Further down now, Richard Virenque, the new leader in the King of the Mountains, riding with Contreras.
Armstrong is looking very controlled. He's not in any difficulty at all at the moment, Phil, and it's quite remarkable to think that he's turning Sestriere into Beach Mountain. Beach Mountain, the mountaintop finish where he won in the Tour du Pont back in 1996, and today he's really riding away from the best in the world at the Tour de France. And when you think what he was told in 1996, it's remarkable to see not only him wearing the yellow jersey, but actually trouncing the field at the Tour de France.
Well, it wasn't far from Beach Mountain, North Carolina, in Boone, where Lance Armstrong found himself last year after going home from Paris-Nice, and he's come back. He came back and he finished 4th in the Tour of Spain, 4th in the World Time Trial Championship, 4th in the World Road Race, and that surely gave him the confidence that he could ride a great Tour de France. His whole season has been focused on it, and now Zuller is seemingly the only man between him and victory in Paris, because here he goes. He's dropped the other 2 and he's trying to reach Lance for the 2nd time on this climb.
Unbelievable. Alex Zuller will not give up. He will not lie down at the side of the road. He realises he has to try and keep himself in the bike race. Anything can happen to Lance Armstrong over the next couple of weeks, so he has to keep riding hard. But Armstrong is opening up the gap right now. It's 30 seconds from Armstrong back to Zula, and this is a phenomenal ride. We always said that the stage to Sestriere was going to be an epic ride, and it is an epic performance here by Lance Armstrong after winning the time trial and coming back on the first day in the mountains with a yellow jersey and riding so dominantly. I can't remember the last time I saw a yellow jersey ride like that.
Well, this man is now proving to be quite unbelievable here, because he's broken clear of everybody. He's eliminated them one by one on the mountains of the Alps today, over some of the classic mountains of this race. He's now in the last kilometre of 213.5 kilometres today, and he could well now be the winner at Sestriere. I do not see anybody coming back. He's 25 seconds ahead of Alex Zula.
And the most
those pedals, he is going to an even bigger lead in the Tour de France, because Christophe Moreau has been dropped and is minutes behind now. Alano, who was third overall, is also behind and losing, ending up to 4 minutes. So this has been an incredible ride by him. And Alex Zula, who lost 6 minutes on day 2 of the Tour, is likely to be right up in the overall classification tonight. That's where we are, right on the far right of our picture. And this man, Lance Armstrong from Texas, is going to win a mountain stage. And Paul, even in the great days of Miguel Indurain, he only ever won the time trials.
That was all Miguel did. He planned his strategy to be on the time trials and just to survive in the mountains. He never went out with a real fist to try and take the mountain stages like this. Armstrong is riding a phenomenal race here. He rode sensibly over the first climbs of the day. He was very good on the Col de Galibier when he used his team. He never panicked when the climbers started to attack him. But once he was isolated at the bottom of Sestriere, he looked at the other climbers and he didn't even attack them, Phil. That's the amazing thing. He just blew them off his wheel.
Absolutely. Well, after his time trials, everybody said, oh yes, but how about the mountains? Well, here's the answer now, because Armstrong has ridden the first day in the mountains better than anyone else. His team were absolutely brilliant at the start. They nursed him and kept him as fresh as possible. He could handle the finish himself, as he's now proving. The finishing line is just up the road.
His last time check, we got to Alex Zula, who's second on the road at the moment, is 45 seconds. So Armstrong is opening up serious gaps. Very shortly, he will get right into the town of
this incredible